A few months ago, in Rumford, Maine, on a cold Saturday morning, people were carrying signs with handwritten messages with the intent of uplifting people in recovery, celebrating community members who were overcoming addiction, and raising money for substance use treatment. "I believe in you no matter what," one handwritten sign said. "Recovery is possible," another one said, and another one said, "Progress over perfection." Good motto, which I interpret to be an offer of grace and at the same time a reminder of strength for anyone struggling with addiction. I don't think we would have seen such a demonstration of compassion and hope in Rumford or anywhere else 10 or 15 years ago. But the perseverance these signs and these people encouraged, sustained by people in communities all across Maine, is at the heart of the progress we've made against the opioid epidemic. It is because of the sustained efforts of people like Gordon Smith and Dr. Steele, God bless you, and Sarah Curran, that this progress is being achieved. And I want to especially acknowledge the work of the woman who preceded Director Curran and who led my Office of Policy, Innovation, and the Future, including the opioid response team, for 6.5 years. Former Speaker of the House, Hannah Pingree. I think she's here somewhere. Where are you, Hannah? Oh, there. We miss you, but want to express our deep appreciation for your tireless work. So first, a little bit of good news. Last year, Maine recorded our largest decrease in drug overdose deaths since 2018. Some progress. And according to provisional data from the US CDC, we still rely on them, all but 5 states nationwide actually saw a decrease in fatal drug overdoses between January 2024 and January 2025. And this year, we're continuing to make progress. From January to June of this year, fatal overdoses have decreased by more than 21% in Maine. At the end of May, the total number of non-fatal overdoses has also decreased by more than 18%. Of course, that's welcome news, but we can't feel complacent. Every overdose, fatal and non-fatal, every one of them is a tragic, I believe preventable as well, loss or diminishment of a valued life. On the enforcement front, traffickers are adapting every day to evade efforts by law enforcement to stem the tide of drugs into Maine, drugs like fentanyl and methamphetamine with low prices and high potency. In the first 6 months of this year, MDEA agents seized more than 2,358 grams of suspected fentanyl alone, and more than 3,000 grams of methamphetamine, and more than 3,000 grams of cocaine. Methamphetamine, as you know, is a highly addictive stimulant that causes violent behavior, paranoia, psychosis. And it was identified in combination with fentanyl as a cause of death in 44% of the confirmed fatal overdoses so far in 2025. And that is a sharp increase since 2024 in the presence of this drug for which there is no reversal medication. Maine is not alone in confronting this dangerous trend. Nationwide, nearly 35,000 overdose deaths in 2023 involved stimulants like methamphetamine, an increase of about 870% over 10 years before. Xylazine, an animal tranquilizer that causes painful open wounds, ulcers, abscesses, was also identified, in addition to fentanyl, as a cause of death in 11% of the confirmed fatal overdoses in Maine so far this year. And there are no overdose reversal medications, as you know, for either methamphetamine or xylazine. We're doing what we can do, my administration, in a responsible manner to stop these deadly, dangerous drugs from reaching Maine and to prevent substance use disorder in the first place and to treat it when we can't prevent it, to set people on a lifelong path to recovery, and above all else, just to save lives. In the area of prevention, last year alone, 4 children died from drug overdoses. As the grandmother of 5 youngsters here in Maine, I can only imagine the immeasurable pain of families who have lost a child needlessly to a drug overdose. So I want to do everything I can to keep people from starting down the path of addiction. That's why I've directed my entire administration, I think half the cabinet are here, to support primary prevention programs in communities across Maine. For example, last year, the Department of Health and Human Services sent coaches to 5 schools in Hancock and Washington counties to lead something we call recovery coaching for youth. These coaches, these people train young people to recognize the dangers of substance use, to realize how many fulfilling things that they can do here in Maine that don't involve drugs or alcohol, and to manage relationships with family members and friends who do have addictions. It's a tough call. It's not easy growing up in this era, in Maine and elsewhere. So many pressures, so many temptations, so much isolation. Our Department of Health and Human Services also teamed up with Midcoast Youth Center to pilot something we're calling Strengthening Families. That's a program for parents and caregivers and 10 to 14-year-olds to decrease family conflicts that we know can lead to substance abuse and use. The first cohort with 8 families recently graduated from that program, and the second cohort has begun. The Department of Defense, Veterans and Emergency Management, and members of the Maine National Guard went back to their hometowns last year to lead a 10-week program for 7th and 8th graders called Keeping It Real. For nearly an hour every week, students in Poland, Auburn, Surrey, and Lemoyne learned from local service members how to be resourceful, and these people provide excellent role models for the kids too. And next year, we'll expand that program to more schools. I want to thank you, Chief Master Sergeant Gauthier, for leading this work. He's here somewhere. Sergeant Gauthier, out for coffee break. The Maine National Guard is also creating more resources for young people in their own communities. For example, the Kennebunk Police Department invited the National Guard to work with them to recruit local business owners, school board members, law enforcement, youth groups, and many others to devise healthier activities for young people like summer camps and after-school programs in their own towns. Thank you, Sergeant First Class Frost, for leading that effort. He's here somewhere. In March, the Department of Corrections, I know Randy's here. There he is. Randy Liberty. They've created the Pathfinders Reentry Focused Outdoor Project, long name, to expand outdoor experiences for young people who are leaving the criminal justice system, probation, Long Creek, etc., and who are re-entering society. So important. We can't just put them out on the streets and say, you're on your own now. And last month, a group from Long Creek Youth Development Center toured a floating oyster culture farm in Yarmouth and learned about careers in aquaculture, something they never would have been exposed to otherwise. Thank you, Randy. And that's just one of the very creative programs that's been established under Commissioner Liberty's very compassionate and effective leadership of the Department of Corrections. So I strongly believe that our most effective strategy for combating the opioid crisis is to prevent people from trying drugs in the first place, giving them the tools to resist that offer, that sometimes fatal, even first-time offer of drugs. But I'm not naive about the number of people of all ages who are already struggling with addiction. And so to save lives, Sarah mentioned the naloxone that we've distributed all across the state of Maine. And when I was Attorney General, we were not allowed by law to distribute it widely. And so I bought a room full of naloxone with settlement monies from settlements against pharmaceutical companies, oddly enough. And I, under the law, could deliver it to law enforcement agencies and first responders around the state. It was all we could do at the time. But now, to distribute overdose reversal medication as widely as possible, to expand access to affordable treatment, and to support lifelong recovery by investing in things like housing, those other things have also taken a lot of our energy and time. And last year alone, we distributed more than 155,000 doses of naloxone. Huge. And last year alone, 300 7th and 8th graders in Lewiston chose to participate in a training program on how to administer naloxone, a training made possible by legislation passed by our legislature. Young Carter, an 8th grade student who participated in the training in Lewiston, said, quote, "I thought it was very important to learn what it was all about. We'll know when to call 911 or what to do while we wait for help." Boy, oh boy. The responsibility on the shoulders of these young people is enormous, but it's important that they have the tools. It's very sad that someone as young as Carter has to think about using naloxone to save a life. But the reality is this epidemic has touched many, many lives across Maine. And many of those lives have been saved by naloxone, sometimes administered by young family members. Since I've taken office, we have reversed more than 11,393 potentially fatal overdoses statewide. A lot of lives saved. Community members like Esperanza, Elliot, and Giselle from Gardner have been a big help with those efforts. Those young adults have trained members of their church in how to administer naloxone, and they've designated and built community supply boxes outside the Augusta Access Center so that naloxone is always within reach for anyone who needs it any time of day. And we know that simply reversing an overdose is certainly not enough to set someone on the path to long-term recovery. That's why it's so important to create more places where people can get ongoing care and help to stop using substances, to stay productive, and to reach their full potential. So in 2022, we established the Cumberland County Crisis Receiving Center that provides walk-in services for anyone suffering, suffering a mental health or substance use crisis so they can get prompt and appropriate care, instead of being alone in an empty apartment or languishing in a jail or an emergency department room, as is too often the case. Since that receiving center opened, more than 2,500 people have gotten services there. We've got to be accessible. We know that crisis receiving centers work, which is why we're opening more. In the next year, we'll be establishing 2 additional centers, one in Androscoggin and one in Penobscot counties. Thank you, Mayor Shalene, for your help in that. We've also expanded certified community behavioral health clinics, which offer mental health and substance use treatment to anyone, regardless of their insurance or ability to pay or where they live. As of today, there are 20 such clinics providing care to more than 8,000 people in Maine. In addition, we've added 61 more residential treatment beds since I've taken office. And I'm looking forward, for example, to touring Tessa's house in Washington, Maine shortly. That's a beautiful new 16-bed residential treatment facility for women. Tessa's house was founded by the parents of Tessa Lee McHugh, a loving mother, daughter, sister, friend, and champion figure skater who lost her life to addiction at the age of 37. I hope that Tessa's house and the good it will do for women across Maine will be a great comfort to Tessa's family in her memory. Now, I know there's a perception reinforced over the past few decades that there are only a few beds available in Maine for treatment. I want to be clear, things have changed. New treatment beds are opening and coming online every day, and I encourage anyone who needs help to ask for it. It is there. And in addition to treatment beds, we've invested heavily in recovery community centers, recovery residences, and recovery coaches. Many of you who are in this room, I think, are recovery coaches. Since 2019, we've increased the number of certified recovery residences from 11 to 104. And we've conducted more than 3,000 recovery coach trainings. Last year alone, Maine's 17 recovery community centers assisted 12,000 people. Help is there in every corner of the state. I also announced last year we would place substance use disorder consultants in all of our Office of Child and Family Services offices. So important. So many of our child protection cases involve substance use by family members, and we've got to intervene appropriately and effectively without destroying the children involved in their relationships, without disrupting their lives completely. But I'm proud to say we've now placed at least 6 consultants, or consultants in 6 of the 8 districts so far. We're exploring other innovative approaches to treatment too. DHHS has created treatmentconnection.com, where people can search for healthcare providers near them, check on their availability, and submit their treatment questions. This is something we've been talking about for years, and when I first took office 6.5 years ago, one of the things on the agenda was to provide universally accessible treatment resources online. And the department is implementing Maine's first mobile methadone unit to reach underserved populations as well. And we're seeking more flexibility from the federal government to provide Medicaid services, including medication-assisted treatment, to individuals who are being released from incarceration, that very dangerous time in their lives, a critical moment in their recovery. I know Randy has provided MAT in our state facilities to anybody who wants it, whenever they need it and want it. It is available. And we're doing that in the jails as well, put some money in the budget to spread that to all the jails. So it's there. I'm hoping that the flexibility of the federal government will be approved to ensure ongoing services such as those. But I have deep concerns about the future of Medicaid services, given the recent changes by the federal government. When he declared the opioid epidemic a national public health emergency on October 26, 2017, then President Trump said, quote, "We can be the generation that ends the opioid epidemic. We can do it," he said. But yet despite that declaration, the mega bill he signed into law last week, I believe, will decimate the very health care coverage that people in recovery rely on every day. Thousands of Maine people stand to lose their health coverage because of this purely partisan law, this mega bill, including more than 31,000 people who receive care for substance use disorder through Maine Care here in Maine. And as I've warned, Maine, the state of Maine, cannot absorb the substantial shift in costs that this new law will place on the backs of our children, families, seniors, and veterans in order for the president to pay for a tax cut for the very wealthy. In the coming weeks, my administration We'll be reviewing the final language of the new mega law to determine the full scope of the damage to our state, including long-term impacts on Maine care and on our otherwise balanced budget. Having affordable health insurance is critical, but we also know that recovery can feel impossible without a stable or safe place to call home. So my administration is also focusing on creating more stable housing for people with chronic substance use disorder by expanding the Home for Good program, which I believe is a cost-effective approach to providing stable housing along with wraparound services to set more people on a path to lifelong recovery and productivity. The first 5 Home for Good developments to be built in Auburn, Augusta, Bangor, Portland, and Sanford will add nearly 140 new units for those experiencing chronic homelessness, and they will include service providers on site to address medical and behavioral health conditions. In addition to housing, my administration is also focused on expanding access to good-paying jobs for people in recovery. Rewarding businesses that understand the unique experiences and skills of people in recovery is important. That's why we've created the Recovery-Friendly Workplaces designation, a certification used by 73 different businesses who employ more than 11,500 people statewide. Jobs are important, just as housing is important, just as health care is important. Each of the strategies I've outlined is a step on the path to a better future that we are forging together. A future where we balance accountability with a better understanding of addiction, a future with strong communities that help all people, especially young people, cope with life's challenges without turning to drugs or alcohol, and a future with a thriving economy and endless opportunities. Such a future, in turn, will surely diminish the demand and the market for these deadly substances in our state. So, again, in early March, the Rumford community came together for the 3rd year in a row to rally to support people with substance use disorder. Those signs that said recovery is possible, that progress is more important than perfection, and that hope is real, those signs are important. We know that connection is the cure to the opioid crisis. And today, community members across the state, including the 1,000 people gathered here together and all the people watching on live stream at home and elsewhere, recommit to supporting people as they start, stumble, or resume their recovery, and to responding to new waves of the opioid epidemic as they ebb and flow to save lives. If you'd like to join us, please visit maine.gov/future/opioids to see how you can be involved and how you can make hope real for more people across the state. But fundamentally, what we gotta have is leadership. Leadership from everyone in this room, leadership in every community, leadership from everyone watching this remotely, leadership from every young person who's offered a pill to cure a pain, a drug to fix anxiety, a drug to get high, a drug they believe will make them popular or more accepted. The leadership and the character that says, I'm better than that. My life is more valuable than that. And the leadership from all of us to also tell that person that they are loved and that their lives are indeed far better than that. Every child, every person in the state of Maine should receive that message, and that is leadership on all of our parts, to tell everybody in Maine that they have value and they have opportunity here, and that we want their lives to be better, the best they can be. Thank you. Thank you. And now, and I also want to thank Courtney Gary Allen, who's here somewhere, who spoke this morning, all the progress she's making in not only the Augusta community, but statewide, and Dr. Steele for your important message and your important work in this area. But now, I would like to present a couple of awards, the Governor's Awards, to two individuals whom you know are dedicated to saving lives. Leslie Clark and Peter Bruin, would you please join me at the podium? Where are you? There. Leslie, good to see you again.
You too. Thank you, Governor.
Oh, well, anyway. As executive director of the Portland Recovery Community Center, Leslie Clark has been a longtime member, or leader rather, of people in recovery, like herself. Although she's retiring, I can't believe that. I'm so grateful that she will remain as one of my appointees on the Substance Use Disorder Services Commission. Leslie, it is my pleasure to present this award, which is engraved as follows. Where her award. In grateful appreciation for her leadership as Executive Director of the Portland Recovery Center and the Recovery Hub. Presented by Governor Janet Mills, July 10, 2025. Thank you, Leslie.
Yeah.
I got some ideas for that fund, too.
Yes. Thank you, Governor.
I visited the community center, and she's doing God's work there. It's also my privilege today to present an award to Peter Bruin of Lincoln County. And last year, Peter organized a project called 19 Towns, 19 Stories, which featured an in-person event in each of the 19 towns in Lincoln County in recognition of International Overdose Awareness Month. I know that Peter lost his daughter, Elisif, 11 years ago to an overdose, and I want to thank him for organizing events for people to mourn the loss of their loved ones with the support of their community. And Peter, it's a pleasure also to present this award to you, which is engraved as follows. In grateful appreciation for creating Elisif's stories and 19 Towns, 19 Stories, presented by Governor Janet Mills, July 10, 2025. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Okay, don't drop it, it's glass. It's heavy glass. And on behalf of the 1.4 million people of the state of Maine, I thank you both. And now I'll turn things back over to our Director of Opioid Response for the last 6.5 years, Gordon Smith.
Thank you. Thank you for your leadership in this.
Great. Right before we introduce our film, which is the only thing standing between you and lunch, I'm going to ask Leslie and Peter to take a minute to acknowledge the award and say thank you.
You can both say something.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Governor. It just is such an honor to receive this award and to thank you for your championship and leadership from day one of deciding that the opioid epidemic needed to be addressed and come to an end, and for expanding Maine Care on the same day, which to hand in hand, those things have saved so many lives. I wanted to, Gordon, and also thank you for appointing Gordon Smith. Gordon, are you still? Oh, there you are, yes. So Gordon, I don't know if you remember this, but the first opioid summit, you and I were on the phone, and I said, Gordon, what do you think of the idea of every workshop if someone who was in recovery shared a little bit about their story. And you said, that's a great idea. Do you think we could find the people? And I said, oh, we can find them all right. And to look out today and see that is so symbolic of what has happened over the years. And I really am going to keep this just to a minute, but the voices of people in recovery, when I came out as a person in recovery after 25 years of being in recovery 10 years ago, it was so clear that if we were going to solve this, we had to come out as people in recovery. We had to be at the table. We had to raise our voices. But because of the governor, because of you, Gordon, you gave us a way to do that. And we are not just tokens. We're actually at every table. Together, we are working as community in partnership to change lives, to save lives, and to create community and connection. And so it has been such an honor to be part of it and to continue to be part of it. Thank you.
First, I want to thank Gordon Smith and certainly the Governor Mills for all of their incredible work. I want to especially note Governor Mills' leadership, not only at the state level, but the federal level. And I think we all appreciate that. I lead an organization called Studio B. It's based in Lincoln County. And Studio B has the mission of using art and stories to support community well-being and justice. And I am incredibly humbled to receive this gift, and the only way I can is by understanding that it's really not for me, it's for all of you. Our job at Studio B is to create spaces for people who have powerful stories, tremendous resilience, extraordinary grit, and yet experience shame, blame, judgment, and challenges day in and day out, to create spaces where their full humanity can be seen, embraced, appreciated, and upheld for those of us who often feel we need to be small, to feel you can be large and seen and heard. We seek to carve out spaces for you and your stories, and I accept this gift on all of your behalves. Thank you so much.